Welcome to the monthly meeting of Apple CIDER, Rochester's Apple Computing Device User Club. We meet on the second Wednesday of the month in the staff cafeteria of East High School in Rochester. Our website is applecider.org and has instructions on how to get to our meetings. On the third Wednesday of the month, we have a board meeting. Anyone is welcome to attend. And that is at Irondequoit United Church of Christ up in Irondequoit. And there are instructions on how to get there. Bob, are we doing the Q&A this Saturday at your home? Okay. This Saturday, the 12th, there will be a Green Apples, which is just anything about Apple stuff that you're not familiar with and want to go over with other people. And then a question and answer session starting at 1 p.m. At Bob Hoey's home. And contact information is on the homepage of our website, and that has your phone number you want to call if people are coming. Okay, good. We have a link from our homepage to for shopping, and it can link to smile.amazon.com. Through that, we get a tiny little bit of the proceeds from their sales. And there's one other thing. If I remember it, I'll be all set. I don't know. Oh, yeah, we stream the meeting on YouTube when it decides it wants to do it. And the meetings are also recorded and archived, and you can go through our homepage and look at past meetings and so forth. Does that cover it? Tonight we're going to have, we're very fortunate to have Nancy Carr here. I get that right? Talking about how to preserve photos, and she has some beautiful examples of work that she's done. It's really amazing. And then after our refreshment break, George Engel, our club member, is going to talk about fonts. Am I right? Very good. And we have a question and answer session. Are you going to start off with that, Steve, or what? Okay, and then you can talk after that, and then we'll have our break. Does that sound good? Okay, thanks.
I can stand right here. This is great. How's that? Okay. All right. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So this is a presentation I put together for people to just get started, because when it comes to your photo collections, how many of you have an area of your basement dedicated to bins full of photos, or closets under the stairs that have photos in them, or albums, or boxes with photos with envelopes from Wegmans and, row photo that have doubles and triples and negatives in them. Pictures of in frames that have been on walls and kind of now are stuck somewhere because those pictures don't mean anything anymore, and you don't want to get rid of them because they did actually have a meaning somewhere. So where do you start? How do you even know what to keep and what to throw out? And the guilt that people feel when it comes to their photos, because they are the most priceless possession that we have. We all think it might be money, but our photos are our memories. They really are the thing that people run into the house when the house is burning. The fires out in California, there was talk about I got the pets, I didn't get the photos. So what I try to do is give you some, first of all, tell you you're not alone. Everybody has this problem. I had this problem. I've done this for my family for over 2 decades now. And I keep just getting more photos from them because now that they know that I can help them, I'm there for them. But everybody has the same overwhelming feeling that I don't even know where to start. So if we could go to the next slide, Steve, that'd be great. The problem is there's just too many photos. You can see these numbers here, and these were for 2017. Going into 2019, it could actually be double this right now. So, you know, the number of photos loaded up to Snapchat and Instagram every single minute. The number of photos going up to Facebook, right? 1.2 trillion photos were taken in 2017. It's got to be over 4 trillion this year because of just the amount of phones. And all the photos that are stored in all these clouds all over the world. People are just taking photos and they don't know what to do with them. And most important, and the ones that most are worried about, is the last one, the 1.7 trillion photos that were printed before Kodak went away and printed photos went away. And that actually started to decline in 2007, which was now almost 12 years ago when the iPhone came out. Because as soon as people had a phone that could take a picture and could automatically share it with somebody else, the need to print went away. And so now people are worried about, what am I going to do with all these pictures on my phones? I don't know what to do. So if we go to the next slide, you see here, we're drowning in photos. Everybody is drowning. The solution is, how do you gather them up? How do you organize them? How do you share them, and how do you enjoy them? And once you do that, it goes from overwhelming to overjoyous, because you've actually created something that you can hand down to your children or your grandchildren, that they're not going to say, I'm not dealing with that mess, because I hear this all the time. I don't want it. You know, don't give it to me. I'm not taking it. I just worked with a client who had to put her mom in a home, and the 2 brothers and the sister fought about who was going to take the photos. And she was so distraught because neither of the brothers wanted them. I don't want nothing to do with them. And she ended up putting them in her car and driving them back from New Jersey to Rochester. And she's like, I don't know what to do with them. So, you know, you don't want it to be a problem for the kids. You really want to be able to, when you're ready to downsize, you know you're going to get rid of this furniture, you know you're going to go into a smaller place, you know you're going to spend less money. What are you going to do with your photos? You can't take them with you. How do you put them into something that you can share and can be a memory for your family? So next slide is, we're going to start with, I think, the printed photos. Oh, yes, so that's, yeah. First, I'll go into printed, and then I'll go into digital photos, because there's 2 differences. How do you get started is, I always say, pick a date. You know, we just got through the holidays. January is National Get Organized Month. It's when people start doing their spring cleaning and clean up their expenses and go on diets and all this other stuff. May is National Photo Month. Sometimes the summer is great because people have more time off. There's more people coming in and helping. The holidays are a great time to start. But pick a date. Just pick a date. And once you do that, put it on your calendar. And then between now and that date, start to gather everything together. Because if you try to do this in one session, again, it's like, I'm just going to stop. I don't know what to do. So maybe it's clean out one closet one day, do the basement the next day. When I go into homes, I always walk around, I get my car loaded up, and I'll walk back in and go, okay, anything else? Well, and there's that drawer in the pantry. I haven't opened it in years. Open it up. It's completely stuffed with photo envelopes. You know, all right, get them out. Anything else? Well, there's that wall outside my master bedroom upstairs with every framed photo of every one of my grandkids. Okay, so go upstairs, take every frame down, carefully put them in my car. And then it's like, is there anything else? And because you just forget how much photos are a part of your life, and they're just everywhere. So gather them up, the hard drives, the USB sticks, the memory cards from the old cameras. You know, the old computers that are sitting in somebody's closet. Where are all those photos? Once you get them all together, then you're ready to start. And I always say put them in a visible place. Don't pick them all up and put them in a room somewhere. Put them someplace that you're going to walk by every day. I always recommend the dining room table because it's big enough, and most people don't sit at their dining room table every single day. It's a couple times a year. Put them there and start to slowly set times that you're going to start doing sections of them. And when I say sections of them, you can't do it all at once. I say usually start with your albums, because your albums are the ones that are probably the most precious pictures. If you took the time to put them in albums, you know, there's a lot of thought into them and who's on the page. And that's a good place to start. And as you start, what you do is you start to remember. And when you start to remember, you start to think about the story you want to tell. So I always say start with the albums. They're neat, they're clean, they're not a mess. And then move on to maybe a box of photos, because a lot of people bought those photo boxes. So many of them in my house right now. One of those little photo boxes holds 1,000 photos. So if you've got 10 of those boxes, you've got 10,000 photos, loose photos, okay? Usually an album holds somewhere between 175 and 250 photos. So every album, so you got 4 albums, you got another 1,000 photos, okay? So it adds up. It really adds up. So gather it all together and plan to start with the albums. The next thing is the supplies that you need. I always recommend, number one, sticky notes. Because as you start to take these things out of the albums and you start to take them out of the boxes, you're going to start putting them in piles. And you're going to start, the piles are going to start growing. And you have to think about, how do I want to sort my photos? Do I want to sort them chronologically and start with the 1800s, 1910s, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s? Usually the number one most photographed year is the first year of your first child's birth. So normally what I do is when I meet a family and they ask me to help them, I do an inventory of their life. When were you born? When was your wife born? When were you married? When was your first child born? And then I know exactly where the hub of all their photos are.
Second child, not so much.
Second child.
Third child, nothing.
Exactly. Third child. I'm the second oldest of 6 children. My brother Danny was born when I was 16. There's one photo of him. And my brother Michael, the oldest, probably has 3 albums. And Danny's always like, why did I get gypped? And it's like, it's just, we get busy. We get busy with our kids and we don't have the time, okay? It's the same with the iPhone moms. Most iPhone moms take a minimum of 10,000 pictures of their first child's first year. 10,000. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I know moms who, when their phones fill up, go buy another phone because they don't want to. They can't. They don't know how. Well, you're a computer person. She's not a computer person. She's a mom. She knows how to take pictures. Yeah. Or they're sitting there and they're, I got to delete because I got to take a picture of the baby. You don't have to delete. You know, just put them in the iCloud, you know. So they just don't understand. But then after number 2, it's maybe less photos, and number 3, you know. And there's a solution. I'll talk about this one in a few minutes. It's called chat books for the busy mom who doesn't have time. And then when you get into the figuring out with the sticky notes, I like to say either do it by people and events or do it chronologically. And for people and events, I'll usually do the husband and wife when they were young and courting and first married. There's a lot of history there. Then the first child, and then the second, and then the third, and then the grandkids, and then the extended family, and then the pets, which is another big one to organize by, and the places you visited and the trips. So those are nice big buckets, and you can start doing that like that, or you could just start doing them by year. It was really nice in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s when Kodak actually dated the photos. Then they stopped dating them when Kodak lost a lot of the processing to the spitting out photos, right? They were spitting out a ton of photos, and they weren't putting anything on the back. They didn't care. So it's a little harder in the 90s and the 2000s to date your photos, but I can tell the year usually of a photo just by its format, the crinkly white edges, the clarity of the black and whites, the outfits the people are wearing in the photos, the cars in the background. Yep. Those
Glasses and hairstyles.
glasses, the hairstyles of the 80s, the suits, the outfits, the uniforms. You can kind of guess it. And once you get to know a family, and you see the husband and the wife, and then the first baby, and then you see them grow up, they don't change that much as they get older. So you can track them that way. So, having several years of doing this myself, I'm getting pretty good at oh, that's Nina, oh, that's Andrew, that's and I know where they go. But for you, you'll know them because they're your photos. So getting back to the organizing, once you've got the albums done, then you want to go to the boxes. That's the B in ABCs of photo organizing. Usually everything that didn't get an album was put in the box because people felt guilty to throw it out because they paid for it. They took it and they paid for it, and it's a memory. So those Grand Canyon trips where you took 80 pictures of the Grand Canyon and there's only one with one person in it, it's okay to throw the other 79 out. Because when you take a picture of the Grand Canyon with a 35 millimeter camera, and then you take the photo this big, there's really nothing there. You can't reproduce the Grand Canyon on a 4x5 photo. So save a few of them to show that you were there. If you have a panorama, that's probably the one I would save. But you don't need them all unless there's people in them. And the thing with people, if you're at a party or in a gathering or you're on a trip and there's the Grand Canyon with one person in it, that's a great photo. But if there's two people in it, it's an even better photo. If there's two people and an animal, like a wild animal or goat or something, that's an even better photo. Why? It's telling the story of you being there with nature, with wildlife. That's the story. The fact that you have a picture of Grand Canyon is not a story. And it's okay to say, I don't need that. And then the C is for can, the trash can. I recommend you get one of those little Huskies and you put a trash bag in it because you can't recycle photos. There's too much chemistry on them, and start throwing them out. If you can't go that far, put them in a recycle box and put them in the garage. I guarantee you will never look at them again. And someday you may shred them, but if you just can't throw them out, I know somebody who actually had a fire pit, and her husband sat in front of the fire pit and burned them all because they just couldn't throw them out. So find a way to move them out of your collection of photos. Yes? Yeah, that's why they won't let us recycle them. Well, we should, yeah, but it's not the volume that we're working with is, you're talking about hundreds of photos. You're not talking about thousands. I mean, you could. If you really feel that way, you actually could. You could do that. And I would definitely recommend, if that's the way you feel, you would do it. But my trash takes them, and so it's okay. The albums are definitely recyclable. The cardboard boxes, all that stuff, the plastic is recyclable. The picture frames are, but the glass in the frame isn't. So, it's a lot of just cleaning up, okay? And then the archiving and storing. You have to have a way to figure out what you're going to do with these photos once you actually have them scanned. Once they're organized, you want to scan them. Could we go to the next photo? All right, I went through this one. C is for can. S is for story. I'll get into that. Next one. So now you want to scan it. Now all of you have printers at home, right? Most of your printers are all-in-ones. You can scan on that. You usually get a 300 DPI on it. It's okay to scan with that if that's your only method, but it's very time-consuming. It's slow, and it's one by one. You can do that at home, and another solution that people do at home and is a good one is use your iPhone and take a picture of it. Just make sure you've got good lighting. You don't have any shadows or any glare on it, and just take a picture of the photo, okay? It's a very good solution. You get a 2 or 3 megabyte picture. It's a very good solution. you can outsource. There are places here in Rochester that do high volume scanning of photos, slides, negatives, Super 8, VHS tapes, cassette tapes. I use them for my clients because I don't want to deal with that kind of high volume. And this is a shop that just does that right here in Greece for us. There's several national organizations. Somebody mentioned the one that's on advertising all the time, Legacy Box. The thing with outsourcing, whether you go to a big shop like the one in Greece, or you go to a mail order, you send it away, the way you organize it is the way it's scanned. If you send them a box full of envelopes and negatives and junk and garbage, you get that back, right? If you neatly organize them, band them, and put labels on them, just a sticky note, 1975, you know, trip to the Grand Canyon, they will scan that for you, so you'll get it back that way. They don't label it, they scan it. You get one file back, and it's say this was, you know, farm pictures, and I put a sticky on the front of it that said farm pictures. They would scan that. That would be the first picture, and then it's the farm scan. But I wouldn't have folders with just the farms or just the trips. None of that is curated, okay? And digitalscansolutions.com. A very good guy works there. He was a Kodak. He was actually developed the Kodak scanners that I use, and I use him as my outsourcing. He does a great job, really great job. Carousels. Yep. Oh, they're beautiful. Are they Kodachrome? Yeah, yeah. He does it all. Forget it. His name is Bruce. He's also a photo organizer like I. He is my source for slides and negatives. He's actually invented some of the equipment he has in there. He was the project engineer for the Kodak scanners for 40 years. I trust him with everything that I give him. And, you know, if you send him a note and tell him Nancy Carr sent me, he'll take good care of you. I was there just the other day dropping off 450 negatives for a client, and he had 93 carousels from one client. 93 was like this, right? He does high volume, but whatever you give him, you get back exactly like that, okay? Yeah, then you're okay. Go, do it. It depends on the volume. There's a discount. And he's got all his pricing online, so go to digitalscansolutions.com. He's right on Ridge Road, right by 390. And he has walk-in service, or you can fill out an order and mail it to him. He gets work from all over the country, okay?
We still even have some of the linear trays before they went to carousel. My dad was a Kodaker for 40 years.
Yeah, he's got linear too, because I handed him, she was 1,200 slides in boxes. It's just crazy. If you do want to get a scanner for yourself, I use Kodak Professional scanners. My high-speed picture scanner scans 100 photos a minute, so I can really run volume through there. And I have a flatbed scanner that does the larger artwork and the very fragile photos, those little teeny tiny photos. But there are several the Epson has just come out with one. It's about $600. There's also a company out of Florida that rents scanners. They're called Easy Photo Scan, and you can rent a scanner for a weekend, and they send you the entire thing with the PC and the software and everything. They tell you how to set it up, and you just go. And it's the high-speed scanner, the one I have. So that's another way to do it. And then for best practices, you want to make sure you're in a clean environment. I have a blower. I have cleaners. I wear a lab coat. You want to make sure that there's no dust on the photos. There's no fingerprints. I wear white gloves with everything that I do. And I limit my scanning time and my working with photos to 2 hours at a time because of the chemistry. I can start to feel it in my throat after about an hour and a half, and I start dry coughing because I'm breathing stuff, mold, mildew, dust, rodent droppings. We opened a toter yesterday, and there was a bunch of dead bugs in it. It's just like that. It's what it is, right? They've been forgotten. So you got to be careful. Give yourself 2 hours and walk away. Otherwise, you go crazy. I haven't. My sons has told me. I just stop. And then what I also do is a good practice. As soon as I'm done, I take everything off, put it in the wash, and I wash. I wash up my hair and my hands and my face. I get it all off me because it's just not good for you. It's Yep. Yeah. Or I'll go into doing some retouching, or I'll go into doing some organizing or some digital stuff. But yeah. Home movies, Bruce also does Super 8 home movies, creates MP4 files, same with the VHS tapes. So I do it too for my clients, and I outsource it to Bruce. If it comes as part of the program, I just send it over there. So that's it. Any more questions on that? So now you're good. You're good. Okay. So once you got it all scanned, then as you're doing it and you're looking at these photos over and over again, photos are a visual memory. It's the only visual memory that we have recorded, right? Unless you're an artist, right? And that sticks in your head. And as I'm going through my clients' photos, these people, there's photos that just stand out. I've been a photographer for 20 years, and I've photographed weddings and families and all that. And I know the cover shot. I know the one that's going to make everybody go, oh, And when you remember that photo, tag it, because that's the one you want in the photo book or in the frame, or you want to give as a gift, or it's your next Christmas card, whatever it is. But remember those photos and keep them in your mind as you're going through them. Digital photos, this is the biggest mess we've ever had because there is no visual. There's no visual memory. It's a JPEG file on a computerized device that 99% of most people have no idea how it works. They don't know what JPEG means. Most of them don't even know what Wi-Fi means. They don't know the difference between the Wi-Fi and the internet. I had trouble with Steve telling me what AirPlay is, right? And I work on Macs every day. So technology is wonderful for connecting us, but what technology has done is really left our photos behind because we're used to looking at a photo, to holding it, and to putting it in a frame or an album. You can't do that in digital unless you really know the digital tools. And the game keeps changing daily. It's like between the Godzilla, King Kong, and everybody else, they're fighting for all the photos, and they don't care. All they care about is selling storage or whatever it is, and they're great services. But when you get into this mess, you really have to have a game plan as to what you want to do. And again, there's so many digital photos. With my clients, I say, let's back up the mess first onto one external hard drive, a project drive. And I'll take everything out of their house. They've got iPhoto, they've got Google Photos, they've got, some have Amazon Prime, they have the hard drives and all that. I take it all and I put it on an external hard drive. I take it back to my office, and then what I do is I create this digital hub, and then I run it through some software programs, primarily to go through and find all the duplicates, because everybody backs up and backs up and backs up, and you got the CDs of the same photos, and these programs that I use. One of them is called Photo Sweeper, and if you're on a Mac, it works fantastic. It'll look at all your photos, all your JPEG files, and it'll come up with which ones are exactly the same. I just did a client's digital mess, and she had 18,000 photos. We found 2,900 duplicates. And it also has find similar photos, because many times you're at a party and you're taking 4 or 5 pictures of the same couple or whatever. And if they're all the same, one of them is going to be the best, because it takes the picture so fast. Yeah? It's called Photo Sweeper. I don't know the manufacturer. It's $9.99. It's an app. It's an app. You have to run it on your Mac. It doesn't run on the PC. And you can sort for duplicates, which are exact match, or similar. And you can put rules in there for how, how much you want them to match. And I usually go through it 6 times, a couple of dupes, and then I do a couple of similars. And by then, I can see that they're getting a little different, right? And then I stop. And then I put them in a folder called duplicates folder, so I don't remove her pictures. So I handed her back her mess all completely cleaned up, and 2,000 photos later. So it's a good way to do it. The other thing that I do is I also back up externally on a hard drive. iCloud Photo Library. How many of you are on iCloud Photo Library? Yeah, I have to say, of all the solutions I have seen recently in the digital world, iCloud Photo Library is smart, and it's safe, and it works. You just have to be on a Mac, an iPad, or an iPhone. It works great. It watches all your devices. Every time you take a photo or import a photo from a camera, it goes to the iCloud. The original is stored there. Smaller versions are put on all your devices, and it just keeps watching. It just is great. Apple's dedication to our privacy and our security, I mean, sometimes it gets to be a pain with all of the, verification IDs and all that stuff, but they do it for a reason, because your photos are safe. The other thing that Apple has that truly impresses me is their 24/7 Apple support, the phone support. I speak to Apple guys 4 or 5 times a week, questions, and I'm primarily asking about the iCloud photos, because I just work on photos. And they'll get access to my computer, and they have this little red arrow, and they say, click this button here, open this, do that. They fix things. In fact, I've had Apple guys say to me on the phone, never take your computer to the store unless you've spoken to us first, because the stores are training grounds. We're the experts, and they really are the experts. So when Shirley told me I was speaking to Apple people today, I was like, oh my God, great. We have a solution. On the Windows side, there's not so much, and and Google, they're doing things, but again, there's ways to get in. It's not as safe. It's just not as secure, and you don't have that one big company watching over you. So I really recommend Apple iCloud Photos.
And if you do have that one PC, you can get iCloud for Windows.
Yes,
and do all the same sort of syncing there as well.
Yes, I tried that several months ago. I can't really say I found it
usable. It's a Windows problem. It's not the iCloud problem.
Right. Yeah, I know. But then when you're done, you want to choose a supplier, who your software is going to be, and I totally move my clients to Apple iCloud Photos. The other thing that, and you probably don't have this problem, but the biggest problem I have with my clients is they're on old computers. Oh, I bought it in 2010 or 2008, or it can't run Mojave. It's down on a High Sierra. That's as far as it'll go. And Apple just how many times you get updates to your software, right? Like almost weekly, daily sometimes. Every time they do that, they leave one of the old computers behind. You can't update that stuff anymore. So I've actually said to my clients, I can't really help you until you buy a Mac. Why would you pay me $1,500 to do your photos when you could go and buy a brand new MacBook Air for $1,250 and all of it's ready for you? I said, invest in the technology, get on the latest, securest, best system, get on Mojave immediately. And the other thing I tell them is, before I come visit you, do all your updates. Do all your software updates, because when you come and then you've got to go do updates, you could be sitting there for 3 hours doing updates and not getting any work done. So I'm sure you don't have that problem, but my clients do. And then I say delete. You don't have to keep all those photos. How many of you have the storage? The minimum, is it 5 gigs on Apple? The 99 cents a month? Yeah. most of my clients are up at the $299. It's 50 gigs for $299. I mean, it's really good. The 50 gigs is 99 cents. 200 gigs, right?
999 is 2 terabytes.
Yes, yes, yeah. I don't know anybody there yet. I really don't. But yeah, it's worth it. It totally is. And I think we're almost done because I know I don't want to go into.
But we've got plenty of time.
Okay. I always say back up because you never know. I worked for Kodak for 15 years. I had all my photos in Kodak Easy Share Gallery. 10 years of photos gone. Yep. I have closets full of Kodak digital cameras. You can't even use them anymore, right? So things do go away. The company that created the consumer photography is gone. So it's always nice to back up. And the other thing is, continue to be ready for the next technology change. If you do go to the latest Mac, USB is gone. Now it's USB-C hub, which is really the design of USB back in the old days. But now none of your USB sticks can go into a Mac. So they got rid of the CD. Now they get rid of USB. You got to buy the dongles. You got to buy the accessories, and it's you got to remember to bring them with you everywhere. So plan for technology change, just like you get a new car every couple of years. Get a new computer. Get it upgraded. Get everything, running and working.
The big one right now is turn this on. Big one right now is Flickr. A lot of people use Flickr. I've got 5,000 photos on Flickr. They just changed their terms of service because they got purchased by somebody. You now only get 1,000 photos for free. If you have more than 1,000, you got to start paying. So if you're using Flickr, you're going to have to decide that. Download those photos to get below 1,000 or decide to pay for Flickr.
Right. And, there's a whole generation of moms and grandmothers that posted all of their pictures of the kids and grandkids on Facebook. With what Facebook is going through right now, you don't know where that company's going to go. You have no idea where your photos are. So, again, it doesn't hurt to back up. Keep copies and print them. Make a photo book. I'm going to go through a couple samples now because this is where it comes down to what you can actually do with this technology now, because I test everything. And, yeah, you can do these big fancy photo books and spend 18 nights on Shutterfly trying to figure it out. And, I get more clients telling me, I just couldn't get it done. I just couldn't get it done. I ran out of time. So I do photo books for clients. I do wedding albums. I do scrapbooks and everything. But there's a couple of really easy solutions for those of you that just want to start printing stuff. This is a solution that was introduced 2 or 3 years ago. It's called Chatbooks, CHATBOOKS.com, and was made for busy moms who take a lot of pictures with their phones, but never have time to print them or create a photo book. So every time I take a picture with my iPhone, if I put a heart on it as a favorite, in my cloud it goes in my favorites album, right? So I can always see them. But Chatbooks is on my phone, and every time it sees a picture with a heart on it, it puts it in a book. And I call it Uber for photos. So when you sign up, you put in your credit card and your shipping address, and every time you hit 60 photos, it sends you a note and says, hey, your book's ready, we're sending it. Would you like to make any changes? And you can change the photo, you can change the names. Because it's taken with the phone, it's got the date it was taken, and it's got the location. So I'll pass a few of these around to you. What? It's $10 a book. Oh, no kidding. With 60 photos. Here you go. Just take a look. I don't edit them. I don't do anything to them because I'm actually making videos on the busy mom, right? Because I am. And this is a solution that's going to get your photos back into your life. It also allows you to put in additional addresses, just like 1-800-Flowers. You can put your mom's address in and your mother-in-law's, and the flowers go. The books can go. Everybody invests in all those, digital frames. It's so annoying. The picture changes. It's like digital road signs. A visual picture is something you can talk about and like thumb through and look at, So Chatbooks is a great solution. Once you do it, it works. It's another solution that just works. Another one that, a wedding album like this could cost you, just the design alone, $200, and the printing another $150. You're looking at a $300 item. And this is absolutely stunning. It's called the Soft Touch. It's just like, you want to touch this thing. It's so beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. You can do wraparounds like this. You can do spreads like this. This is a press book, press paper with a pearl coating on it. And these are all pictures of flowers that I took here in Rochester. And this is actually the sunflower fields at Bauman. October. This I took with my iPhone. That's how good this stuff looks, you know? So there's so much you can do. But this is the one that is a real surprise to me, and I'll end on this one because I have a big family. We all have grandkids. We all get together all the time. And we had the little ones in Rochester for a weekend over the Halloween time. And I took this picture of the 6 of them with my Nikon, my big camera, my big girl camera, right? And I had them all posed. I probably took 10 pictures of them. And then I took my iPhone the rest of the weekend and shot all of these, you know, jammies the first night, and, you know, we went to Pittsford Dairy, and we saw the cows, and, you know, we went to then the pumpkin patch, Powers Farm Market, where is that, here, right? And it was my sister and I in the back, in the minivan, just going nuts with these little kids. And then, you know, we took pictures of the puppies and outside, and a couple of other things. And I wanted to give it to this little girl who had come up with my sister from Long Island for the weekend, and she never gets to spend time with these kids, so I wanted to give it to her to take home. So while they were coloring on Sunday before the plane, I went on my computer, I signed into Walgreens Photo. I use it all the time. They have 1 hour pickup, and they always have coupons. And I said, I don't have time to lay this book out. And I said, would you like to try autofill? And I hit autofill. It knew to put this photo on the cover page. It knew to put, they're really in chronological order, but it knew how to lay out the Pittsford Dairy one because there were so many people in this photo. It knew how to do it. It was intelligent, auto intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence. AI. It knew to put all the pumpkin patch pictures, and because there were so many of us in this picture, this was the big one. I looked at that and I said, you know what? I didn't have to do a thing. And then
Exactly the way you got it from Walgreens?
exactly. And it had a 40% off coupon, $11.80 for this quality. I picked it up and gave it to her on the way to the airport. And this is what it's all about. This tells you why you take pictures. It's that memory that Emily has of her cousin up in Rochester that she would never have had if I didn't just have my phone out and then went to a simple little solution like Walgreens. You could go to Target, you could go to CVS, you know, it's possible. It's possible to get your photos back in your life. All of these things are possible. And I do it because I love it. And I love talking about it. I love, you know, inspiring people to do it themselves. So that's about it. I've also do photo restoration and all that other stuff. I hope I gave you, have inspired you to at least say, maybe we should talk about it. And maybe we should think about doing that. There's so many solutions out there, and it doesn't have to be scary. So that's all I have to say. Does anybody have any questions? Or?
Well, I go to 1,000 pictures from Alaska for me.
Yeah.
White.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, yeah. Did you photograph this site? No, no. You know, that's a really good point because I say this to people all the time. They spend $10,000 on the trip. The tickets, the plane fare, you know, the preps, the gear, everything. They get the big camera, they go out to take all the pictures, and they get home and guess where they are, right? They're all taken with your Nikon too, yeah. Yeah. No, I curate wedding albums because there's a lot of those, I call them orphan brides now because photographers are hired by the hour now, and they're great photographers, but the client gets back the CD. I'll do it myself. client says. You know, just what do you charge by the hour? Give me 6 hours. And that's how photographers are being forced to work now. And I wouldn't do that. I said, I don't shoot weddings, I shoot albums. So if somebody wants to hire me to do a wedding, I shoot an album and I produce the album, and that's included in the price. I don't get as many clients, which is fine, because I don't want to take 1,000, 1,600, 2,000 pictures of a wedding and have them never have. What brides do not remember their wedding day. It's too, you know, and then they go away on the honeymoon, they're exhausted, and they go back to work, and then they get pregnant. It's like they have no time. You know, 3 kids later, they're like, I still don't have a wedding album, right? So that's when I get the call. It's like, can you just take this and do it? And I'll curate the wedding album, and I'll design it and do the whole thing. But yeah, I do trips. You know, if you're going to spend that kind of money on a trip, do a 20-page, where's that book of the flowers? 20 pages is 10 spreads. That's all you need, 10 spreads. Because if you do any more, same with the kids, 10 spreads, it tells the story. If you can't tell it on 10 spreads or 20 pages, you've said too much. Hone it down to the key money shots of that trip. And don't clog the viewer's brain with photos. You know, let them breathe. The last picture in my flower book is the one of apples, the farm with the barn with the apples on it. It's like, you want to end on something that's just like, wow. You know, you want to have the middle spread to be like the Erie Canal at sunrise. You know, when you design books, they should tell that story. They should come to this, like, you know, aha moment, and then go into the final, you know, you're creating something. So it's not about everything you took. It's about what you want people to see and remember about that trip, or about you, or about them. And it's very precious. It's a very precious memory, and a very, very wonderful gift if you can do it. If you can't, I'll help. Yeah.
Unfortunately, before the meeting, I explained to you that I am the scope of ignoramus.
Yes.
So, has digital photo storage been going on long enough now for problems to have arisen with inability to access files because they're obsolete? I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That was a problem, Charlie, in the digital camera world, because camera manufacturers were not computer guys. They were optical engineers, right? They were scientists. They were color scientists. They knew the computer, but they didn't understand consumer, you know, at the consumer level. The Apple iPhone solved all that, because you never get a photo that's more than 2 to 3 megabytes. I mean, my Nikon 800 shoots 54 megabyte raw files. I need a lot of storage, and it drags me down in Photoshop and Lightroom, right? But I only shoot portraits with that, right? My iPhone, the pictures, you saw the picture of Bauman? That's fine for what I wanted to do there. So if you're doing commercial work, you need those big files, but for this, no, you don't need it.
And
JPEG.
it's well, it's being replaced by HEIF now, high efficiency file format, but that includes a JPEG wrapper for backward compatibility. But right, well, and then similar to your question is the storage media. I got a Sony Mavica that takes pictures on floppy disks.
Wow.
And then there were SD cards, compact flash before that, and Sony cameras have their own weird little Sony proprietary thing. Yeah. And then you would store them on CDs and then DVDs and zip disks and SideQuest disks and Bernoulli disks. So the short answer to your question is yes. So every couple of years, pull out all your old, media and copy it on to the new media. And it also refreshes it. You know, we've had customers pull out 20-year-old Bernoulli discs and, can you copy this file for me? Do you have a Bernoulli drive anymore? No. So, yeah. Yeah. But their free storage is 16 megapixels, which is a heck of a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, that's fine if it works for you. That's great, but it never hurts to just bring them all into something and put them on a hard drive somewhere. You know.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Wow. Mhm. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Right. 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 Right.
On Flickr, it is possible to download albums. So you can download your whole camera roll, or you can download your album. When you log into the Flickr, you go to the U icon. And are you familiar with Bill Atkinson's photo card?
No.
You're familiar with Bill Atkinson? He is the original Mac genius. He wrote QuickDraw. He wrote Lisa Draw before that. So he is responsible for the Macintosh software. And when he left Apple, actually before he came to Apple, he was a neuroscientist. And Steve Jobs wooed him away to design the Lisa and the Macintosh. And since then, he's been a world acclaimed nature photographer. He has a free app called PhotoCard that will email postcards for you. Not email, postal mail postcards. It's $1.50 a card that includes printing and postage, and it's super high quality print process because he's fastidious about his printing. It's a real great when you're on a trip. You know, a lot of times you buy postcards and mail them home, but it's a neat way for you to use your own pictures as a postcard.
That's great. I'll remember that. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Oh, I have business cards. Let me pass them out.
SaveYourPhotos.com, is it? .org.
My company is called, pretty simply, Preserve a Photo. And I'm at preserveaphoto.com. And you can reach me at Nancy. Okay, awesome. I'll wait. My email is nancy@preserveaphoto.com.
The YouTube stream isn't working, but I am recording, so we can upload it later. But ironically, on the on the school district website, you can't get to his webpage because it's encrypted, and the school district is blocking encrypted pages. One of the other issues that has also cropped up recently is that many people know that iPhoto before it and Photos used to have a printing feature built in, cards and books, photos and calendars. Apple discontinued that service because it was run by Kodak. And so I think it was last September they discontinued it. So if you try to open the photo book function inside Photos, it won't work anymore. But fortunately, there are third-party companies that have created plugins for Photos, and one of them is one of the other companies that used to do it for Apple. I gotta find the link again. Motif is one, and what was the other one? Yeah. Yeah, I found a couple of reviews on the beds. So one of them is good for books, and the other one is good for calendars, and it's.
Yeah, I haven't tested any of them yet because it was just an announcement that would be September 28th by Apple. They used to do some really beautiful things, and they've gotten out of the printing business. So now they want you to use one of their partners, and they'll send you there. But you can create a PDF of it, and then print it that way.
Right, so you can still use the creation features built into Photos, and then just print a PDF and take that to a printer.
I was on it the other day, and I wasn't able to find that to be able to do the PDF, so I'll have to get back in it again. Yeah, Staples is very good. I use them a lot for a lot of my business stuff.
Mimeo is the other one.
Vimeo.
Yeah. And that looks a lot like the layouts that Photos used to have. So I think that was one of Apple's contractors. So actually, when you're in Photos and try to create a book, it will tell you that the service is no longer available and send you to the App Store to install the third-party apps that you can play with. The apps are free, but again, to actually create a book, you have to pay, of course. And since Photos are the biggest thing most people miss, as Nancy said, having your backups is very important. Multiple backups, frequently. The one caveat I might say about using the iCloud Photo Library is it does a really good job of syncing all your photos together. The danger is it does a really good job of syncing all your photos together. So if you delete a photo in one place, it deletes it from everywhere. But you get a 30-day timer to undelete it. And so that's something to keep in mind as the main difference between a sync and a backup. So backup makes a copy and leaves it alone. A sync makes a copy and makes them the same. So when you delete, so if you know and you're aware, you delete all the crappy photos on your phone, they'll be deleted from your computer. But don't delete them from your phone to make space, because then they're deleted from your computer too. So the photo library automatically manages your space for you, and it keeps the full high-res versions on the cloud and only downloads thumbnails. So if you start installing more stuff on your phone, it will start removing high-res versions from your phone but leaving them in the cloud. It gets a little tricky on smaller phones because you run out of space really quick. And so now the average phone is now 64 gigs, and 128 gigs for a phone is common. And you can get an iPad with a terabyte drive in it now. Of course, that's $2,000, but you can. But yeah, back to Charlie's point, storing your photos, and will those photos work in the next 10 years? Yeah, that's the question. JPEG has lasted a long time, though. Right. Well, and so one of the things, JPEG is what's called a lossy format. When it compresses your files, so she mentioned you got a 54 megabyte raw photo. When you compress that into a JPEG, it throws away data it doesn't think you'll miss. And for the most part, it does pretty good. And if anyone has ever saved a JPEG, you might remember seeing a little slider where you can have high compression or you can have high quality. You can't have both. So most people just stick it in the middle somewhere. And that's usually okay. But if you're doing super high quality stuff like this, then you probably want to use the TIFF format, which has compression built in, but it's a lossless compression, so it doesn't throw away any data. Right, but TIFF only gives you about a 50% compression. JPEG gives you about a 90% compression. And some people with a good enough eye might see the difference. But because the cameras are now taking 10, 12, 15 megapixel pictures, there's so much data there that it can pretty much fill it in. And which is why Apple and other companies are now working on the new high efficiency, HEIF, high efficiency image format. And then there's an equivalent video format, HEVC for video. So it's better quality at just as good a compression as JPEG. So that's sort of what we'll probably see in the next 10 years taking over in the camera industry. But it is nice that most cameras have standardized on JPEG file format and SD card storage devices. They can, but you can't add the data back in. There is a program. Shoot, what was the name of it? Fractal something. There is a program that tries to recreate the missing data. So if you have a low-res picture, it can try to make it high-res. Try is the operative word. Yeah.
No, but I can pass them around. No, I've got a few minutes.
Yeah, why don't we take a break and you can come up and chat with her and take a look at her stuff.
This is some of my photo restoration. I do everything. So if I can't do it, I'll let you know. It's just time and tedious work. But I can restore color cast. I can correct tears and rips. I can restore detail to older photos. These are the old photo colors. Yeah, this is it's amazing, isn't it? And somebody had turned these photos, and I just wondered if this was all there. It's pretty amazing what you can do. Yes. It's just the number of hours you want to work on. Most of the photos that I get are water stained or they've been scratched. Yeah. Yeah.
We can do that now during the break if you want. We can do that now during the break if you want. Do you want to stand or sit?
Huh? I'll stand.
Okay.
I usually do.
That out of the way.
I think that's what you did the last time. You did the setup.
Yep.
AirPlay without Apple TV box?
Sure. The Apple TV is just one of the AirPlay receivers. Most devices have AirPlay transmitters built in.
My TV does. Because some of the shop does AirPlay without Apple TV?
No, the Apple TV is an AirPlay device.
I understand.
Right.
Without getting that, is there any other way to AirPlay to the TV?
With another AirPlay device. Plug a computer in. There's a lot more AirPlay audio devices than there are video.
Right now I'm just running my HDMI across the stereo.
Yeah.
That's working.
Yep. No, I want this. And we need to get you connected.
Take care.
Oh, no problem. Ew. I bought Macintosh.
So that's what they buy me for work, well, as you well know.
Nice. Yep.
And in fact, I think I have that, the latest one they have is a nice 13-inch MacBook Pro, generation back.
Cool.
And I still have that old 15-inch that runs Linux now. And that 2007 iMac, let me say so back.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. Yep. Good seeing you again. Have a nice day. All right. Come on. Bring the keyboard up. No, it's a different password. This one. Forgot I had one.
I think last time you downloaded the app for me.
01. Q. 8. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can, let me see if the AirPlay works, or we can do the same thing where you can give me the file. It doesn't show.
Historical Society. This is their catalog that they're using to show to the libraries and everything.
I wonder if they're blocking that protocol.
But I restored it.
All right, which one is it?
Typography final.
Final. Okay, I want that one. No, I didn't want to open it. I wanted to send it.
That would be final.
All right, files. Where is the tap and hold?
This is what I did my clients
Share.
when I returned. That's so cool. You
AirDrop.
I do. That's so cool. This is what I changed.
CIDER book.
There was one room of just they had
Yes.
both parents had passed away and they were in their lives. They had no idea what was in it. This is how it was. Completely organized. Yeah, put it on my
And how many of these boards are still all put together,
Ah.
ready to go, right?
Her whole recipe
Now I need to
She gave her recipes and skills, and then this is what she got back from us.
get this set up for, all right, so then I can do the presentation and you can just tick me to advance the slide if you like.
Good, no problem.
This. Which is this, but.
We'll point that there. Let's see. All right, so can you're not going to let me exit out, are you? You swine. So I need.
Soap opera effect from either more pixels or scanning or something like that. It says it has the effect that he was doing this thing, moving his hand back and forth in 30 hertz and 60 hertz or something like that. And when the scan rate or whatever it is gets too high, it smooths the motion out more than you're used to seeing, and can actually
And it
make
gets
you
weird.
sick to your stomach or something like that.
We saw The Hobbit in the 48.
What that series is called?
I'm not a fan.
Okay.
Never find it. They released The Hobbit in 48 frame per second. 48 frame per second, double the regular film rate, and people didn't like it. And the usual complaint was it looked too real. It didn't look like a movie. And then the set designers and the costumers and the makeups, they had to go to all the extra work to make it look right, because you can really see the blemish. It was like when the first IMAX movies came out. You can see the zits on their face. You can see the seam in the costume. And so I haven't seen any other movie released in high frame rate. Yeah.
No.
Yep.
And mostly, we filter that out. I see your face, the shape of it and so on.
Well, it's like when you're.
I'm not looking at your pores and your whiskers.
And the scan rate differences now between the cameras and something moving on screen, like a car driving, you'll see the wheels will either stop or they'll go backwards, and the car's driving forwards, and you see the wheel going backwards, and that really freaks you out because the scan rate's different.
All the magazines with photos, Vogue magazines
Mhm.
really don't have force. It's like force. It's like a force in the face.
I saw.
They're wasting all this airbrushing they gotta do the airbrushing because of the.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There was a video I think Dove put out, the soap people, where it was a little girl looking at a poster of a model, wishing she could look like that model,
Yeah.
and how gorgeous she was.
Was it,
And it,
the Monet girl or something like
I
that?
forget, yeah. And then this woman walks into the little girl's room, and she was by no means unattractive, but she wasn't the drop dead gorgeous in the picture, and said, "No, you don't want to look like that. That doesn't exist. That's me." And then they went through time lapse and showed like the 3 hours of hair and makeup and styling to take the picture, and then the hours of the Photoshop work to make the poster. And it was one of their, I think it was Dove soap, on their beauty campaign. I think that was the name of it, the Dove soap beauty campaign. Real beauty, to show what women really look like without all the touch up and Photoshop and I remember an episode of was it 2020? What was the one with Barbara Walters on it? And they were talking about Photoshop. It was years ago, and the Photoshop and film editing and how you can make things look fantastic. And they were walking. They showed a photo editor. They took a picture of the intern, fixed her hair, trimmed off the split ends, cleaned up her skin and removed some blemishes. Her necklace was a hair off center, so he moved the necklace over, filled in the links, the chain links that were missing, and did all this stuff. And it's editing you wouldn't normally notice when you're looking at a picture, but that was done. And then they went down in the lobby of the building as all the giant pictures of the anchors, and she said, can you do something like that, for my picture? And he said, we already did. So they're already retouched and edited. And so there was another joke about Barbara Walters that someone posted they wish she would run for president next election, because then she could say, "I'm Barbara Walters, and this is 2020." Bad puns. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about a little bit of Q&A, or a little bit of news. So there was an interesting effect the other day in the news. Apple posted revised earnings projections. They lowered their earnings projections from $89 billion to $85 billion. Am I recording? Yeah. To $85 billion. And the stock price plunged almost 10%. They lost $72 billion in market cap because they lowered their earnings. They're still making $85 billion in a quarter. That's nearly $1 billion a day in earnings. Not just revenue, but earnings. And the stock market went nuts and killed them. But everyone is doing bad too. Yeah. So yeah, it's all the day traders who want to buy in the morning, sell in the afternoon, and make $1 million. Yeah. If you're in it for the long haul, you're gonna make a lot of money. So the other thing was that Apple lost their $1 trillion mark, and let me see if I can find the current ones. Stock value. So their market cap, where was it? It had it in here, I think. And there it is, market cap $727 billion. But Microsoft is one that is building up as well. So Microsoft is really close. Whoops, what did I just hit? Wrong button, whatever it was. Yeah. Did I hit minimize? Rats. No, which window? Photo card window. All right, let's get into the photo card window. Oh, there it is. So apparently there's a key combination that switches tabs, and I don't know it, and I keep accidentally hitting it. So Microsoft, I think, is MSFT, yeah. So Microsoft is $800 billion, so they're a little ahead of Apple at the moment. So they keep going back and forth about who's going to be next. I don't think there was any other major Apple news. Everyone is waiting for the quarter, end of the quarter, quarterly results should be out soon, for the quarter ending December 31st. Yeah. So the part of the irony was that because they lowered their guidance, Tim Cook actually posted a letter to the investors publicly, saying, "Don't worry about it. We're still making $84 billion in revenue. Don't worry about it. We'll catch up next week." Yeah. Let's see. No, there was. Oh, we talked a little bit last month about the pseudo lowering of prices, where Apple is offering the iPhone XR as low as $450 when you trade in an iPhone 8 and get $350 in trade-in credit for it. So you have to be a little careful about those asterisks on their trade-in credit. The App Store. Oh, this was a new one. $1.2 billion in the App Store, with a single day record on New Year's Day. So if you're lucky enough to have a popular app, you can make a fortune. For the 99.99% of all the other app developers, you might be able to make a living. But that can be tricky too. Alrighty, should we go into you, or do you want to do a little Q&A? All right. So we're going to switch over and talk about typography. And I am going to turn this window off and turn that window on. And we'll hit play.
Okay, welcome everybody. What I wanted to talk about tonight is typography. I mean, communication, everybody communicates. The animals communicate. The way we communicate, a little bit different. But remember, we have learned to write. We have learned to type. We have learned to have archaeological records. We can look back in time. Animals don't do that, okay? And next one, sir. Okay, and next one, the art of typography. I love type. I love fonts. I love the written word. I'm a visual person, okay? If you look at newspapers without any pictures on it, it looks like a gray sheet of paper, okay, from a distance. There's a lot of things that make it different. So let's look at fonts in general. You have, we all know words like the uppercase letters, lowercase letters, but where did that stuff come from, okay? In the old days, when they used little wooden blocks, okay, typesetters, they had this thing called a case where all these letters were located. If you look over here on the screen, okay, the uppercase is where the capital letters were. Well, why did they put them up there? Because the typesetter, he's using the lowercase for all the letters that are most used. Every now and then you need a capital, so he reaches up to get the capital letter. But most of his work is done on that lower case. Next one, sir. Okay, this is, over here, this is what his case looks like for a printer that's really doing his work, okay? If you notice on the lower case set, things like M and the vowels, they have the biggest block because they use those most often. So if you're writing a paragraph, you might have, 20, 30, 40 E's, and in that little case down here, that's where all those things were kept. So he's using them all. They use a lot of them. When they finally get the whole page set, it's blocked on either side and top and bottom so the letters don't move, and then the paper goes down, etc. By the way, most typesetters, when they set a type, they set it from right to left. In other words, it's backwards, because when the paper goes on it and you lift up the paper, now you can read it. So good typesetters, they can read a newspaper forward and backward. It doesn't bother them at all, because that's how they set the type. And, okay, next one, sir. Pull quotes. Have you ever heard the term pull quotes? Oh, some of you have, some of you haven't. Newspapers, okay? and flyers. What is a pull quote? A pull quote, I made a dummy newsletter, just as an example, 7 years ago. Okay, this is when I was in Lakeland. I just gave it a masthead, what they call a masthead, the Lakeland Inquirer. And I set it up with all this little dummy stuff up here, Dominus Vobiscum, yay bucks, whatever. But that would be up in the top. The headline, here's the headline. My husband uses homophone subs, the wife of 25 years. My God, okay? He uses homophones. And then you're saying, then they got a picture of me and they say what my wife said. Oh, he used me for 25 years. Now he uses those homophone subs, this beautiful woman, whatever, after all those years of wonderful marriage, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now instead of waking me at 6 in the morning, he let me sleep and use homophones instead. Okay, next thing you know, you're going, oh my God, what is this guy? The police come up, arrest me, bring me down, give me a mug shot with this thing over here. The reporter goes out and she calls old good Bishop nice, a good night, and the bishop says, hey, wait a minute, he's a member of my parish, okay? Next thing you know, he goes crazy. It's immoral. It's against the sins of matrimony. He goes crazy. The reporter says, wait a minute, I got a story here. This is going on the AP now. She calls Verizon. The Verizon CEO says, we do not sell homophones. We will never do this. We should be ashamed of this guy. Does anybody know what a homophone is? Lo and behold, next page.
You're probably a practicing thespian and have been known to masticate 3 or 4 times a day.
Yeah, here's the next one. Homophone is a word that's pronounced the same. Come on, guys, think about this, okay? How about a flower, the rose, or he rose up from the chair, or differently, such as carat, a 5-carat ring, a carat, carat 2, 2, 2. That's a homophone. Oh, I think we're going to have another meeting, okay? We start going into this. But that's a homophone, okay? So a good reporter understands we want to get the people to read this, okay? We want to get a pull quote. Go back 1 slide, sir. Here's the word. This is a pull quote. He used me, okay? Your eye goes to that. Before it goes to these or the type, he used me. That's what you get. That's what you get. Good reporters will go through 3 paragraphs and find something that they want. I'm going to use this. Next thing you know, it's on the papers. 2 hours later, it's on Associated Press line. 3 hours later, TV commentators are using it. And here's this guy, well, that's not what I said. Oh, yes, you did. Here it is. Well, you take it out of context. He used me, my wife said. You understand? Is it important? Yeah. That's why I don't read newspapers anymore. Everything I do, I get off the internet where I can double check and et cetera. Okay, next one, sir. Here's one. Here's an example. Goes back into the 40s. New York Times, rules and pull quotes. A rule is what separates the columns vertically and horizontally. It separates a story, okay? A pull quote are these little things here. Wants to pull you into the story. If you're not interested in the pull quote, you're not going to read the rest of the story. It's the reporter's job to make it interesting. The more interesting to make it, the better pay grades they get. Yes, sir. Here we go again, New York Times. You notice the difference now. They start using graphics. They start using the page. I'm a visual person, okay? It's not gray anymore because it's broken up. Lines, rules, 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 rules. Separates the story. Next, sir. Here's an old one. How old do you think that paper is? George Washington's administration, 1789. This is old. Gray. It's a gray paper, no graphics. They didn't have the ability to do graphics. But here we go. Rules, 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 and pull quotes, little pull quotes. Not as much as they do today. In those days, that wasn't a big thing. Okay, next one. Whoop. Okay. If you look at this, this is one where they use underlining. Okay? Underlining. When's the last time that you really had to do underlining to be important with something? Back to the original image writer. Okay? We didn't have bold. We didn't have the italics and all that stuff that you have today. You didn't have the number of fonts that we have with the bold face. So they did underlining. This, it's a newspaper. Last thing you need is to look stupid. Next, sir. Worse yet, this is from our parent company in England, where we all came from, derived from. Look what you got, bold and underline. That's the worst thing you can do, bold and underline. Anybody in this group uses bold and underline. At 10 o'clock, you're going to have a knock on your door. You're going to have Benny the Bat and Tony the Hose slapping the hell out of you, because that's not what Apple people do.
Let's add italics, too.
Huh?
Let's add italic, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Apple people don't need to do this. Really, newspapers don't need to do it either. When they do, it looks terrible. Really looks terrible.
Well, and part of the problem is now websites will underline something that you've been to before sometimes. Yeah.
Yes. Well, now that kind of makes sense. That would make sense, but not in a newspaper. Next one, sir. Okay, always spell check. How important is spell checking? There you go. When he left this morning, I could still smell his cologne on my seats. Would you say that's important, or would you not? If you read that, well, you're going to do a double take, right? So of course they meant cologne, but that's why you want to spell check. You got that one. Okay, go ahead. Next one. Okay, why would you want to spell check? Why would you want to autocorrect? Autocorrect, you have to be careful. With Apple now, it wants to autocorrect your type if you have it turned on. As you can see, always been my worst enemy, right? There you go again. Okay, well, how about this here, taken from Target? Sale, $4.99, cookies for Satan? I'm sure they meant Santa. However, that's the way it came out. Next one, sir. Fonts matter, okay? Which font would you think would be the one that you want to get on Mother's Day, right? You'll always be mine, or you'll always be mine. A typeface certainly matters. So you want to get a typeface that emotes the feeling that you're trying to get across. Next one, sir. There's one, 2001, using a good old Germanic font. Christmas what? Yeah, Christmas facts and fancies. However, that's not the way it comes across.
Farts and fairies.
Your eyes, what does your eyes perceive on a font? So you want to be careful. You can see, right? Okay, yeah, you want to be careful. Well, here's another one, a Santa hat. Or do you perceive something different? Okay? Now you're talking about typography, right? You're talking about typography. How does the eye perceive it? This guy was fired if he worked for me. Next one, sir. Okay, this is interesting because a couple weeks ago we went to a board meeting and at the Old Toad. Okay, and if kerning, now we're getting in a little bit of type, but kerning is the space between letters. And optically, you want it to be smooth reading. You expect it to look nice. Look at the space between the T and the H. Okay? Too much space, isn't it? Look down at the bottom. Here's one here. It says British. Now that's nice. The spacing is nice. It just reads right across, right? But the T and the H, too much space. The H and the E should be closer to the T so that it looks right. See, it doesn't look right. Or how about toad, T-O-A-D? Look at the spacing between the T and the O. Not right. No, it doesn't matter. Actually, it looks better this way Because when you're looking at it this way, you're not looking at the word, you're looking at the letter spacing. Okay? Yes. Oh, sure you can. Yes, you can.
And these
That
are probably
H-
applied one letter at a time.
Yeah, that H, you can kern. Kerning means I'm changing the spacing between individual letters, not everything. I'm changing the space between individual letters. The H, actually, this letter H can come over, even if the top of this H blends into the T, it will look good. Adobe does this all the time with FI. The F and the I is not two separate letters. The F and the I, like Phil, F-I-L-L, they have one character for the F and the I. One character. Okay, it's not two. F-I is one character because they know kerning is the spacing between, and we want to make it look good. So this H could come over this way. The T, or the O-A-D, could be moved over underneath the shoulder of that T, and it would look clean. You understand, right? You got that. It doesn't look normal. My wife and I, we're driving the road, and we look at billboard and say, "Go look at the kerning on that. That's terrible." Okay, or that font that doesn't look right. If it's just something, it triggers something, and it says it's not right. But you don't know what it is, but it triggers something. Okay. Okay. Let's look at the fonts themselves. The serif font. I just call them little puppy feet. On the bottom of the letters, they have these little feet that make the letters stand up. That's the way I think of it, okay? Little tiny puppy feet. Yeah, Times New Roman, Garamond. The serif fonts have that. If you read a newspaper or books, almost every book you read, use serif fonts for the body type, okay? The headline font or the chapter font is usually a non-serif font like Helvetica without the puppy feet, usually. Okay, impact fonts, Bazooka, Black Oak, Tubular, these fonts, they stand out. They want to grab your attention. Graphic fonts, anything with like a calligraphy font, all the beautiful swirls and stuff, already make some beautiful stuff. Business, industrial fonts, here, postal fonts, little with the post office things. That's a font face, believe it or not. Music notes or notes font, they just have music notes. So you can actually write music, okay? Wingdings, we all know wingdings. Next one, sir. Warm fonts or old style fonts. If you just want to communicate, let's say a letter to a friend, okay? You could use Palatino, Souvenir, any nice warm font with rounded, a little bit more rounded letters, a little bit informal. It gives you kind of a warm feeling to read it. It's hard to express it until you see a letter written like that. You go, this is nice. It's not formal, okay? Old style fonts, Garamond Premier Pro. Now you're getting into expensive fonts. Apple doesn't give you these, they can't. Okay, this is Adobe stuff. How expensive, I'll show you in a little bit, okay? These fonts are what they call old style fonts, Caslon Pro, etc. I like the numbers, the way the numbers are, high, low, okay? The fractions, the real fractions, not one dash, whatever, okay? Then you have what I call your black letter fonts, like if you're getting a diploma, or what they call English, there's another font, Town, another one. Then there's script fonts. Script fonts, some of these are absolutely beautiful, okay? Unfortunately, on iOS, you can't use any of these. You just use what Apple gives you. But on the Mac, all of these are available. You can get these as TrueType. TrueType's probably at the 70 to 80% of them. You can get these things free, or you get a disc with 1,400 of them on for $9 or whatever. But I even have Walt Disney script. Oh, it's great. You can't use it a lot, but it's a great font, okay? Next one, sir. How about one-of-a-kind fonts? Here, Amadeus, like winter stuff. Wild Things, they use plants and animals, and Look at that, a lobster. There you go with his claws up. There's your W. Okay, palm trees like a T. Cut and paste. That's like the old San Francisco stuff, remember?
We just call
Smelly.
that the ransom note font.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, smelly. Here they got, you can't see it back there. They got little skunks in with the letters. Little skunk sitting there, okay? Rosewood. Remember, rosewood is anything you want to use for the Wild West. You want to use them for posters, anything like that that wants to give you the feeling of this is what we're going to do, rodeos. Well, you have number fonts. Look at two little eyeballs and little feet running across the screen. So you can have that. You have wedge. Beautiful little font. You probably use it maybe 1 out of 10,000 times. Stars and stripes. You want to use something on the patriotic theme? Stars and stripes. Or beeswax, one of a kind. Bazooka, bell-bottom lasers. I like the guy who thought of that. The old bell.
No.
Dwellers. Here's a font I've been trying to use for 25 years. I've never found a use for it, but I love the font. W, little guy with a tightrope. Here's a guy doing a little 1.5 gainer. Guy sitting on it. Here's a guy doing a leg stretch with the R. A guy reading a book on the S. One of a kind font. I've never been able to use it. But I'm still working after 25 years. Tecton Pro. You see this? It's a draftsman font. Beautiful little font for that kind of work. You have a fashion font if you're in a fashion kind of mode. Stencil and crate. Okay, where do all these fonts come from? Okay, you have foundries, what they call font foundries. These guys, that's how they make their living. Okay, they're trying to make a font to give an impression of something. They're trying to emote a feeling. Adobe, the biggest, one of the biggest. You have Linotype, ITC, Apple, Microsoft, and all the rest. You have Monotype, Berthold. They just go on and on. Hundreds and hundreds of foundries.
And some of these companies were traditional hot metal press
Yep.
type that moved into the digital arena and converted a lot of their original fonts over.
Yeah, you're right. Linotype, ITC, they're
Yep.
the old ones. Are these things expensive? Let me show you. Are they expensive? Yeah. Nope. Just happened to bring. There you go. Just happened to bring some down. Some of the bits that I had. Those are my old stuff. Here's an example. Original fonts that you would get if you wanted to get an let's say a Linotype original collection of OpenType. This $2,999. ITC OpenType $1,559.
And you were, by copyright law, had to buy one set of fonts for each computer you use them on.
Yeah, on this one I have an assorted collection of OpenType, whatever, $4,559. Linotype Gold set, $7,199. That's the Linotype. Adobe OpenType, $5,000. ITC OpenType Library, $3,900. Monotype, $3,499. Just what I told you right now, that's almost $20,000.
The current Adobe Font Folio set with 5,000 of their most common fonts is $3,000.
Yeah, well, the time has changed.
Yep.
Okay, and why has it come down? It's come down because of TrueType. It's come down for a number of other reasons. How many fonts? I just looked at, went through my quick library. I have on this DVD 69,356 fonts here, 49,900 fonts here, 30,000 fonts over here, mostly TrueType, 22,000, 18,000, 40,000, a total of 187,000 fonts. Four DVDs. Yeah, like what? 187,000 fonts. Okay. Yeah. Good Why does somebody need that? Why would somebody need that many fonts? Actually, you don't. Okay, because I've been doing newsletters for 30 years, like mostly all user group newsletters. I used to love it. From user group to user group, I did it. If anybody's interested, I brought in some DVDs. If you're interested, I don't care. My second book I did is for and about user groups and user group newsletters. I have one DVD. If you want it, I'll give everybody a copy. Just don't pass them out because they're still available for sale. So it's a freebie for the group. Okay. I talk all about in there. I talk about user groups, user group newsletters. How do you put together a newsletter for a group? Where do you use graphics? Where do you use type? What kind of type do you want to use? Okay, it's a big, thick book if you bought it, but it's a freebie anyway. So let's look at going back to fonts. Decorative font. If you look at the top line, I just wrote my name. It looks terrible. If you looked at it, in most cases you wouldn't even see what the heck it is. But when I use uppercase and lowercase, now you see the decorative font makes sense. And it reads well. The upper one doesn't, okay? Never use caps, all uppercase caps. It just doesn't look right, no matter what. Let your eye be the guide. Yeah, I took something called Good Morning, okay? Good Morning by itself. If you're going to put it up, here your employees are coming in, and you would put up a sign that says Good Morning, blah, okay? Now, you can, back one. If you take Good Morning, you take Good Morning. Choose the right font face. You can bring it into Photoshop, and you can put a style on it that runs at about 30 seconds. Change the color, put a drop shadow on it, place the whole thing on little butterflies, make the color the same thing. Now you have Good Morning. Put that up on a poster. People coming in, it evokes something meaningful, okay? It puts a smile on your face, and let the things buzz around. What a difference between Good Morning and Good Morning, okay? You're just applying, you're emoting something. Yes, sir, next. Okay, let's look at the shapes. We have tape, yes, sir.
Back to this previous slide.
Yes, sir.
I think I got off the track when you said never use all caps. Yeah, that one. Because I was looking at the bottom where it says Good Morning.
Yeah.
And that's not actually all caps, is it? It's at the end.
That one is all caps, yes.
The bottom, the end.
The bottom one is all caps. Yeah.
But they look like lowercase a little, don't
Yeah.
they?
If you saw that like on the iPad or on the Mac, it looks different than it does with the lighting here. Okay? But yeah, in that place I used Good Morning. Okay? All caps. Because it wouldn't look good uppercase, lowercase. I did it both ways. Okay. Here we're doing the same thing. We're having type, but besides type, we're applying something else to it. Here I took the letter L, okay? Gave it a little italic, brought it into Photoshop, and I applied a style, which takes all of 15, 20 seconds to do, and I gave it a nice gold look, okay? And a little drop shadow. Here I took a shape in Photoshop. I just took like a heart. Inside the heart, I just did a cut and paste of some text that I made, dropped that in there, had the color inside, okay? And cool, because I could. I put text inside of a shape. It's perfectly easy to do. Look at the A and the W. I put a picture of the cat inside the letters. Wow. It's not a big deal, but it looks nice. Now, look at the kerning. You see the kerning here we talked about before? See? Actually, you put a drop line down, W was into the A, but here it looks nice and neat. It would read well, okay? Oh, how about an ampersand? The ampersand, like and symbol. Look at that. I took the ampersand, I applied the style to it, a glass. It's the name of it, glass. Whatever you type is going to come out looking like glass. You can see through it. And in my favorite font, I took the Q, Did a style for it, a little drop shadow. Beautiful font face. Next one, sir. Pardon?
Nothing.
Q, the Q.
Nothing. It didn't. It wasn't a word. It was just letters.
Yeah, just let it. Yeah. Now here, I took the word, okay, apple cider. Went into Photoshop and I just made a little thing and I said apple cider. I chose a typeface that was broad enough that I know a style would look good with it. I took apple cider, made it look like a circuit board. This took all of 15 seconds to do. Photoshop took care of it for me. Then I said, well, okay, instead of a circuit board, let me come down and make it into gold, okay? Because the gold is precious like a user group is precious, okay? Okay, from here to here took 15 seconds. I just applied a different style. Or because it's cold out, and I said, let's make it into a winter apple cider. Another 20 seconds. Easy to do, but it emotes a feeling or sense of something. If you're going to make a newsletter, you can make the masthead like apple cider right across the newsletter, right across the masthead, okay? Under it, you do the date or whatever. But you can use whatever you want, whatever you're trying to emote. You can change it every month. Use a different masthead. You still have the same content. Next one, sir. Aha. Here, instead of styles, I use something called actions. Photoshop allows you to really go a little bit overboard with an action. An action could be 10 simultaneous, or 10 things working one after another. It has to do this, and then it's going to do this, and then it's going to do this. There's a sequence of things, a programming thing. And actions, there's 1,000 actions that you can get for Photoshop. But anyway, I did the same thing. I did apple cider. I typed apple cider, and I applied an action. This took about 35, 40 seconds. And I, wow, let's pizza this. So I changed it from this to pizza. Yeah, apple cider. It's a pizza night. An end of year, we're going to have pizza tonight. Apple cider. I actually, if I spent another 10 seconds, I could have put pepperoni 10 seconds more. And I could have had pepperoni on apple cider. Or the bottom one, apple cider. This is one of my favorite. Cappuccino Grande. That's the name of the action, okay? So you have the coffee, a little bit of the foam on top, a little bit of the sprinkles. Isn't that a beautiful font? Doesn't it emote something to you? You look at that and you're going, yeah, it's cold. Boy, I could use a good cup of coffee, okay? Pardon?
You didn't name the top two actions.
I forget the name. This one I think was pizza. I forget the name. I forget the name of this. I forget the name of that one. But there's this. Huh? It's pizza. Yeah. If you look closely on an iPad,
Sauce on it.
it would be pizza.
Yeah.
Anyway, the styles, like I said, there's thousands of these things in Photoshop. They're free. The actions, free. And you can do, between styles and actions, you can really emote anything you want with the font. And it'll come up fancy stuff. Not so much for doing, well, for a newsletter, yeah, like for mastheads or special things. But for flyers, you can do all this stuff. If you're doing a flyer, you can really emote something on a flyer with text, okay, or the right font. Okay, here's what I did. I just took LA Mug. You see, LA Mug is this is a glass font. So you want a font that you can see through, but you still get the message, okay? And then I said greatest on the bottom, wanted like a Star Wars kind of thing. I really should have put yellow and black to get that Star Wars feeling, but just showing you what you can do with type, okay? Yes, sir. Okay, go back to type, okay? Go back into Imperial Rome, 1,100 years ago, okay? Or whatever. Here, Trajan's column. A column is 138 feet high, 1,100 tons. That's almost a ton a year, right? Has an inside spiral staircase. The base stone of this goes back to when they built it, when they built this, okay? We still use the same square font that they use today, except we call it Trajan, okay? Based on Trajan's column. I put a gold on it because I just liked it. It looked nice. Next one, sir. There, on the bottom of that Trajan's column, here's the square. If you could see this, you would understand what I mean. The letters are all square letters, okay? And if you looked at all the letters going across, there's no spacing between the letters. Don't ask me, but there's no spacing between the letters. They just read it that way. So how would they denote numbers? Because numbers are X, V, I, okay? So how do you denote the difference? What they did, in here, it says VI. You can take that two ways. What they did, they put a little line, a little bar above, and they denote that as numbers, right? And over here, there's another one, XVII, the number 17. They denote that by that little bar across it. But square letters, it would take you all day to write a letter. So they used cursive, just like we use cursive, okay? So for business, administrative, and it looked like that on the bottom. That's their cursive, okay? Okay. Oh, here you go, Latin. You paid how much for that dress? Okay. I wanted to make sure you were awake. Okay, go ahead. First Mac font, Susan Kerr. You remember Susan. She did, when the first Mac came out, that's my lady. That was the little puppy down here. That was what you saw. That was the Mac as it came out. As time went on, it went to this. And today it's looking like this. You know, it's the same happy face. When you saw that say hello, thank Susan Kerr, okay? When she did the first Mac font, Chicago and all those fonts, they were all bitmapped, okay? They were kind of they were square, 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 square. It looked terrible if you really zoomed in, but that's all we had. When Steve left to go to Next, she went with him. She was his creative director. And then when Steve left to go back to Apple, she went to Microsoft, and she designed their buttons, icons, and everything else, okay, for their OS. She also did the solitaire card game. She also did IBM's OS2 fonts. Whoa, okay? And then if you're looking at Facebook today, look at Susan Kerr, okay? Go ahead, next one, sir. She does their icons. The first Mac 128, when that was in process, just before it was done, Steve went around with a tablet, and he had everybody sign their name on the creative team. Everybody signed their name. No idea what it was for. He told them it had to do with payroll and stuff. Everybody signed their name. When the Mac came out, inside the case here, everybody's name was embossed right into the plastic in the creative team, okay? And everybody got theirs, so they knew it was there. And who sees that, the inside? That's Steve. He's perfection. It has to be perfect inside as well as out, okay? The only people that saw that were the people that worked on it. The people that worked on it, we knew. We looked inside, opened up the Mac, and there's all their signatures. We went, yeah, every time we looked at it. Customers never saw it. The average person didn't, but that's the way Steve was. He wanted perfection. And on the Mac, that was Steve's way of saying thank you, okay? Even though nobody else saw it.
On the Mac SE, which had a slot in it for expansion, Waz's signature was on the slot cover. So every time we upgraded a Mac SE and pulled the slot cover off to put the port in, then they could mount the slot cover with Waz's signature.
Yeah, a little. He was the floppy king. He was the guy that we can't talk about Waz. That's an all-night subject. Yeah, let's look at what's the difference between bitmap, TrueType, PostScript, OTF. What does that mean to you? Okay, the original font. These are Apple's original fonts. What we used to call the city fonts. Okay, Chicago, Venice, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, Toronto. These are the city fonts. That was bitmap fonts because they couldn't do anything else. Okay, and again we thank Susan for all those fonts. Okay, and when the image writer came out, Oh, all those fonts, you can go crazy. My first newsletter was done with every font Apple had, 14 fonts on one page. It looked crappy. It was stupid. But boy, if at the time it looked good. Why? Because I could. Okay? I was crazy. But anyway, so what does that mean to you? The first bitmap, when Apple had that, that was good. And when Apple came out with the first laser writer, Adobe had all 2 EEPROMs, okay, and the EEPROM, erasable programmable memory. But there was 2 EEPROMs that had the font set and what to do with it. That was in there. And the original image writer, I think, was about $7,000. Ask me, I had it. I got it on sale, but I had it as an employee. And $7,000 for a printer. This was crazy at the time, because this $7,000 then was, I don't know what it would be worth today, but a hell of a lot more than what it is today. When I went to school for the laser writer, okay, down in North Carolina with Apple, it was a 1-week course from 8 to 6, just to learn how to take apart the function, troubleshooting, and all that. A 1-week course. And I talked to one of the Apple guys. There weren't many Apple people in those days. But when I talked to the Apple guy, he says, yeah, $7,000. He says, but Adobe gets $500 of that for every one that's sold. $500. And what do they get? Yeah, you can use our PostScript font.
We were surprised by how many screws and fasteners there were in it. When I was at Kodak, we took a laser writer apart, and it had like 5,000 fasteners. And we took an IBM laser printer apart, and it had 200 fasteners.
Yeah.
And then we put the Apple laser writer back together, and we were ready to plug it in and see if it worked again. And everyone in the lab, gathered around. A couple of guys brought fire extinguishers. We turned it on, fired a print, and it worked. So we documented how well we took it apart, so we could put it back together again.
Yeah, I still have all my diplomas. Yeah, they're under the bed someplace. But anyway, so yeah, I had $500, and that was just for a. Yeah, go ahead. You want to give me this check? Yeah, let it go out the door. Give me another check, and let it go out the door. And that's what Adobe did. Type. That's what they charge to be able to use my type. That's what they charge. So Apple, after a bit, said, wait a minute, this is starting to hurt here. When we start going up with operating systems, this is going to hurt us, okay? So what Apple did, and Microsoft was being hurt too. What Apple and Microsoft did, Apple started it. Microsoft got together with Apple. They worked together, and they came out with TrueType. Now, TrueType, it almost looked the same thing as PostScript. Okay? Of course, you wouldn't be able to use TrueType for printers and things like that, doing real print work like books or magazines. But for the average user, all these computer users were now able to use TrueType. Mac people use one type of TrueType. PC people use another type of TrueType for the same, because they're not, the display is a little bit different between the two. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but on average, no. So that was TrueType. Adobe says, wait a minute, we're starting to get hurt here, okay? Because at the time, people started to, I'm going to come out with my own TrueType, with my own fonts. Apple and Microsoft said, no, you're not, okay? They went to court, and the court said, people can make whatever they want in TrueType. So Apple and Microsoft lost. Now everybody's making TrueType fonts. You saw some of the TrueType fonts. Some of those look beautiful, and they look very close to PostScript fonts. Now Adobe's really hurting, okay? So anyway, so Adobe started, and then they got together with Microsoft, and they come out what they call OpenType. Why would you want to go to OpenType instead of PostScript? PostScript, when you have a PostScript font, there's 2 parts to PostScript. One is the PostScript that the computer sees. The other part is what the screen would see. They're 2 different things, okay? But you need both parts for one font space. OpenType, you only need one part. You don't need one for the screen and one for the computer, because OpenType, it works on whatever you're going to do with it. You're going to print to it. You're going to send it out to the printer. It looks fine on the screen. You don't need 2 parts. So they came out with OpenType. OpenType is where the world is going now. Everybody's going to be shifting to OpenType. That's the way it is, okay? It's a better reasoning. Whether you're a Mac or PC, doesn't matter. OpenType is the same. It looks the same on both computers, Okay, next one, sir.
We used to joke that one of them was a cubic spline and the other was a quadratic Bezier. And all the math geeks would snicker.
Now everybody understood that. Okay. Most Apple installed fonts are true type fonts. In the Apple system, they're true type fonts. If you look at the iPad or the phones, you can't add fonts to that. It is what it is. Oh, there's a third-party app that comes out and says, "Oh, you can do this." It's a real kludge. It's not guaranteed to work on the next update, but it's a kludge. But there is an app. I say, don't even bother. Use what Apple gives you. It's a problem when I was trying to make a display for my session here. Those little pretty things with Apple inside it, you know, all those little fonts, and what I did with with all that fancy stuff, I couldn't do that on iOS. I had to make a screen snap, and then put the screen snap into my presentation because iOS doesn't have that font. Okay, either that or I had to go into Photoshop and save it as a Photoshop file, and then drop the Photoshop file into Keynote on my display. So iOS doesn't have it. Okay, so all you have to do when you click on any font, you just double-click on that font, or click on it, and you're going to come up with a screen like this. And it's all you have to click is install the font. Whatever you install, that's going to be installed on your Mac. Okay, and you notice up here, italic, bold. It's a face. A font is a font. If I just said Garamond, if I just said Garamond up here, Garamond is a font. A font what? A font family. It's a family of fonts. Italic is in the family of fonts. Bold is in that family of fonts. Okay. Thin. Each one of those font faces, a font face is what you see on the screen. But each face is either bold, italic, or something like that. Okay, but that's in the font family. So if you wanted all of these fonts, you click install only that one which you want. Okay, next one, sir. But Apple's OS will know where to put it. So you would say, and as I said here, Mac and Windows True Type, they're a little bit different. Yeah, OTF works on both. Yeah, OTF fonts. If you're saying, what's the difference between OTF? If you just looked at it, you wouldn't know. But OTF fonts will have the name of a font and then .OTF after it as a suffix. True Type will have .TTF, like True Type font, TTF after it. Next one, sir. We're almost done, kids. Here, businesses. Who's going to use this? Businesses, Mac, computer people, designers, printers. If you're thinking of doing a book, if you're interested, anybody's interested in making a book or something like I did 2 of them, and I went the hard way, okay? I learned the hard way. You have to learn what printers want. How do printers determine what they want? Everybody can take one of those DVDs when you get home. My book is there. Open it, take a look, and you're going to see newsletters I did from the beginning to newsletters toward the end. In there's software articles, hardware articles, fun stuff. It's a fun read. 330 pages, but it's a fun read, okay? Take it. And if anybody's interested in doing books or something like that, you're thinking of doing one, just get in touch with Shirley. But that could be another topic for another meeting. Okay, next one, sir. Okay, where are these fonts held? Okay, where on your computer? What fonts, if you wanted to add some the hard way, or if you wanted to throw them away, where would you find these fonts? That's a big depends. Okay, next one, sir. Apple's fonts, you're going to find in the system directory up here. You're going to find that under system/library/fonts. Or you may find some other ones and shared by all users. That would be n/library/fonts, but not in the system directory. Okay? Or in your home directory, that would be under library and fonts. Or if it's Adobe, now here we come. Adobe's a little bit different. Adobe doesn't trust you, doesn't want Apple to get involved. If you had any Adobe product and you clicked install, Adobe will put fonts where it thinks it wants them to be. In this case, that would be under library/application support/Adobe/fonts. Adobe's going to keep theirs there. If it's Microsoft, Microsoft is going to put theirs in application/Microsoft Office 2000 whatever /Office/fonts. Here's 5 places where you're going to have fonts. That's going to drive you nuts. Okay? So what font can you get rid of? Stay away from Apple's directory. That's a warning. Okay? Apple's going to send over Benny the Bat and Tony the Hose at 10 o'clock at night and slap your face a little bit. You mess around in their system folder. Leave it alone. You're asking for trouble. Don't go there. Trouble will find you soon enough. Don't go into that system folder.
Things can also get complicated if you install someone else, another Foundry's version of like Helvetica or Geneva. Then it messes up because the system will use the system fonts in one place and it might use the other fonts somewhere else.
Yeah, because Apple's going to get confused, and you don't want to confuse your system. Okay. If you do, bad things are going to happen to you, okay? As the Romans would say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, okay?
And a little easier is Apple's Font Book is an application.
Yes.
In your apps folder. One of those apps you probably never knew was in there. It lists all the fonts you have installed, and there's an option to disable fonts you don't need all the time, and then there's another option to remove the font. So it's a little easier that way.
Yeah.
But most people that install fonts usually know how to remove them themselves. Most people just use the fonts that their computer came with and don't even think about it.
Luckily, fonts are really small things. They don't take up a lot, luckily. Otherwise, I'd have 186,000 installed. But luckily, they're very small fonts. You saw the 186,000 on 4 DVDs. I could take those 4 DVDs, put them onto one little flash drive, 32 gig, 16 gig flash drive, no problem at all. Okay, we were talking before. What do? How do you store things? Eventually, those CDs and DVDs. What I brought in tonight was CDs. That's what my book is on. So if you don't have a CD drive or you can't get one, talk to one of the other members in the group and have them put it onto a flash drive. Give them the flash drive. You don't think I was going to come in tonight with 17 flash drives, right? No. That stuff doesn't happen. George doesn't play that game anymore. Okay, that's it, kids. Any questions on that? There's many questions in this topic. I covered it fast. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Font Book is great for that. Font Book, if you have your font installed, Font Book will show you all the fonts. There's software apps that you can get that will go through your fonts, look at your fonts on the Mac, not on the iPad, but on the Mac. Yeah, in fact, there's books that are out on this. But what kind of a book? You know how thick a book is going to be able to show you characteristics of 186,000 fonts? I mean, a book is going to be like this. Well, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, the thing that I would look for in the beginning, if I was looking for fonts, first of all, if I was just a casual user, I'd use what Apple gives me. I mean, they give you a pretty good range. If you were looking for something specific, well, not me because I have all that crap, okay? But if you're looking for something specific, you can just go online, go through. There's so many of these font companies out there. You go into the font company and say, I want display font. Up comes a display font. I want a calligraphy font. They're going to show you a whole list of calligraphy fonts. Okay, I want, an Adobe, forget Adobe fonts, but if you wanted Adobe fonts, you can, buy Adobe fonts, go to Adobe's font site, go to Adobe, and you're going to go Adobe/fonts. You're going to come to their font site, and they have from A to Z on their fonts. You can scroll through them all, or you can choose by topic, by a category, and you can get a category, just the way I showed you a category of fonts. They give you a category of fonts. For body type, I just tell you, you're going to want something with puppy feet. Just basic. This is a topic unto itself. I went through this when I did my books. Okay, what font do I want to use? What font do I want to use when I'm writing a book? Oh my God, with all these fonts available, okay, what font? And you're saying, well, it has to be an open type font because I'm going to have to send that font to the publisher. Say, this is the font I want. Okay, I'm assuming the publisher has it, but you want to send that to. What are you trying to emote in this book? If it's a technical font, you can use something like Times or Times New Roman, whatever. But that's just the basic text font, okay? Because people are reading that because it's a technical matter. If you're trying to get something warm across, a friendly font, like I did for my books, I want it to be sitting down right across the table from that person, and I want to emote, you're a friend. I want to get this feeling across. I did that with writing newsletters. I didn't come across like I'm a college professor and I'm going to talk down to you. Right across from each other, 8th grade level, okay? That's what you want when you're writing, 8th grade level, okay? No syllables longer than 2 syllables. Anything longer than 2 syllables, you're going over the head. 2 syllables. 2 syllables, 8th grade level.
Yeah.
And if you
syllable has 3 syllables, yeah.
If it takes 3 syllables, change the word to something else. Okay. So you have to choose the right font with all those fonts. But look at Adobe's website under fonts. There's so much information. Scroll through it. I mean, you're going to get lost. But that's probably the best site for looking at fonts. There is applications that let you go through your fonts. They're out there. I know that's not a real answer, but the quickest one is look at Adobe's website. That's the best site.
And there was a movie a few years ago called Helvetica. Helvetica. I'm trying to get my audio. Where's my volume control? Escape out of that. Give me the volume control.
And don't get any other topic that you guys want. Just let Shirley know. She'll bring it up at the next board meeting. Okay? Anything you're interested in, let us know.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize all the fonts they have in their system. Explore the font menu, and there are dozens of foreign language fonts. So if you want to type in Greek or Krungthep is Thai, I think, or Hebrew or Myanmar, I found was a pretty one. You can type in all those languages. Yep. Alrighty, I think we're just about out of time. Anyone have a burning question they need to ask? All right, good. So we'll see you all next month. Let me bring my window up here. So next week is the board meeting, but first, Saturday, our Saturday SIGs this Saturday, 1 o'clock. Green apples at Bob Hoy's house, and then Q&A will start about 3 o'clock. Board meeting next. I got to change the date on it. Shirley, remind me to change the location for the board meeting next month. Unless we want to meet at the Old Toad again. The Old Toad, yeah. Next month, February, we're going to be talking about tax software. Lyle Teague is going to show off some tax software in time for tax preparation. And if you need more computer news and questions and answers, Saturdays at noon on Jazz 90.1 FM, member-supported Jazz 90.1 FM. And I can't get there, is Soundbites, there we are, radio show. You can call in and ask questions there as well. So thank you all for coming. We'll see you next month. Jeez, can't talk.